brothers and sisters, I'd like you to get on your feet for the Reverend Dr. Al Sharpton. No justice, no justice, no justice, no justice. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Justice. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. When do we want it? Now. When do we want it? Now. Hug the person next to you and tell them you love them. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up to freedom land. Certainly we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning where the action is, and we are here for you that are listening on WLIB 1190 AM in New York, and for you that are watching live stream on www.nationalactionnetwork.net. We're happy to be with you another Saturday where the action is. Give a hand to our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy. And to our musical director, Brother Brevon Neal. And certainly all that have gathered today, moving quickly because I have a few issues we want to deal with. But let me say before I do that, that we are talking about Brevon. Brevon is celebrating another birthday. Give Brevon Neal a big hand. A great musical, he not only does the music here, but he's a prolific artist and takes sacrifice for being with us on Saturdays. But he tours the world, not only with Roberta Flack and others, but in his own career. But he's here with us on Saturdays. Say happy birthday to Brevon. All right, and then tomorrow is the birthday of the widow of Eric Gardner, our own sister. Give her a big hand. And let me say that when we celebrate Esau tomorrow, you know, tomorrow afternoon, the young folk, Ashley and them, is their annual day in front of Harlem State Office Building, fashion, entertainment, and all of us are there. And I told them that I would be there. I always come through, and hundreds of you come through at 2 o'clock on tomorrow in front of Harlem State Office Building. But what they really don't know is really going to be Esau's birthday party tomorrow. So we want everybody to come and say happy birthday to her. But you can see her today, you that are at the House of Justice. Today we also remember that yesterday, 60 years ago, was the death of Emmett Till. Emmett Till was killed 60 years ago on yesterday, August 28, 1955 in Mississippi, where he allegedly whistled at a white woman and was beaten to death. And they never paid for the crime. In fact, the two men that were prosecuted and never convicted later bragged about what they did. And his mother, Mamie Till Mobley, fought until she died on keeping his name and memory alive. Many of you remember she visited us at the original House of Justice on 125th and Lenox. And she and I worked together, and she was with us the Saturday morning that we had the family from Jasper, Texas, that they had dragged the bird to death, we had Mamie Till Mobley stand with them at the House of Justice. That's one of the reasons why you ought to come to rallies, not just listen on the radio, because you never know who's going to be at outside the rally. We got all kind of folk just come in. Lloyd Williams here this morning. Celebrities. Just, you know, Beyonce, Lloyd Williams, same thing to me. Ain't no telling who's going to be here on this Saturday morning. But we remember that killing because it inspired the civil rights movement. Rosa Parks, who I was honored to be one of the speakers at her funeral, Rosa Parks said that when she was sitting on that bus in Montgomery and that driver told her to move her seat, she thought about Emmett Till and wouldn't get up. And that's why as we fight these cases, Lord, you don't know what will trigger the next Rosa Parks to say, I'm not going to do this because I thought of Eric Garner, or I thought of Michael Brown. Movements have a way of making its own impact if you just stand up and move. And let us not forget Emmett Till and that whole thing that it brought on. Also in that light, we lost this week the great Dr. Amelia Boykin Robinson, who was the woman that you saw in the Selma movie. We knew her well. She was at our convention. She was the woman that was doing the voter registration in Selma that got Dr. King to come to Selma. And she lived till this week 104 years old. Some of you remember in March of this year, I'm looking around, the pictures hanging somewhere, where when President Obama and those of us he selected marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma for the 50th anniversary. He was right next to her wheelchair. I had my hand helping to wheel her across that bridge. And I thought about how awesome it was. 50 years ago that day, just past March, she was tear gassed on that bridge after they beat John Lewis and Hosea Williams. And she lived to 50 years later go across that bridge in her wheelchair at 104 with the first black president of the United States. And I remember we were all down there and ecstatic about that, but I reminded people, I was the main preacher at Brown Chapel, the main church that morning, and I reminded people that the fight for voting rights is not over, because they're trying to take it back, which is why this is important, what we're doing. But one of my great thrills in life is that picture of President Obama and Amelia Boykin Robinson next to him, and I'm wheeling her across that bridge last March, and we'll always remember her. 10 years ago today was when the levees broke in New Orleans and Katrina happened. And many of you that went with us, we had the marches around justice for those that were the victims of Katrina. Let us not forget that Katrina was a man-made disaster. It was a natural crisis, but a man-made disaster. Had there not been for the failure of FEMA and the infrastructure being weakened and ignored, those levees would have never broken. And those that died, 1,600 people died. People, thousands relocated. When I went down to New Orleans and walked around the armories, old folk, babies, displaced, and many still never brought back. And George Bush telling the head of FEMA he did a good job. So we should remember the day though. While we are, you know, it amazes me when people talk about what they wouldn't have took. Right now, you can't pass an infrastructure bill in Congress. There's some Katrinas that can happen today. Everywhere I travel, I was in Rocky Mount, North Carolina last Saturday night when I left here. Every roadway, every bridge, every tunnel needing repair. Speaking City Council and others are getting ready to speak, will tell you we have structural decay in the city and can't get the federal funds because the Congress won't pass it. On the anniversary of Katrina, don't keep talking about how far they come. Talk about the danger we're still in. Go across the bridge and pray that you make it. I was down somewhere down south and go across the bridge and the bridge started moving. They said, oh, that, happens when the wind blows. I said, what? Ain't nothing normal about something swinging now. I done marched across the Brooklyn Bridge 1,000 times. But if it starts swinging, that's my last march. Jeff Klein got a lot of juice in Albany, but he can't help me if that bridge dips. Let me also say this, and I want to get into this K2 drug that Jeff Klein and our state rep, our state health, and head of the bodegas and all have already addressed it. I hope you in Radio Land understand the significance of this. This week we announced that we are, as of October, moving Politics Nation, my TV show, to Sunday morning. Yeah. And I want everybody that talk about they couldn't get home by 6, I'm gonna be on 8 o'clock every Sunday morning on MSNBC. Now, a lot of folk, well, I'm gonna miss you at night. Well, I'm gonna be on Sunday morning. I'll be on a lot of times at night doing other shows. But I also, for 4 years, did 3 hours radio every day, 1 hour TV, and never took a day off. And it just give me time to travel more during the week for our chapters. We have 102 chapters. And I'm going to focus on that Sunday morning show. So everybody talking about, well, Remal, do you like, let me tell you something. Y'all wait till y'all see what we do on Sunday morning on MSNBC. I got a lineup. Well, I ain't even gonna tell y'all yet because the press is here, but they better be ready on Sunday mornings. Let me say that Minister Kirsten John Ford and our staff and team in the Northeast stood last week and talked about the danger of this K2 drug phenomenon. And you've heard the state health commissioner, you heard representatives of government, certainly Senator Jeff Klein and others this morning taking time to come. This is a serious approaching crisis in our community. When people can get synthetics across the counter and mix it into drugs where they actually lose their mind, we should not wait on a disaster to address this. You already got people doing crazy stuff. We should not wait on one to go all the way crazy and do a bunch of savagery before we stop. One thing I've learned is that Americans, and too many of us in New York, we have a short attention span and we are episodic. Shooting and we traumatized for about 2 hours. Brevon tell you, Roberta Flack used to sing a song, business go on as usual. And that's what we do, we get all upset. The outrageous, despicable shooting in Virginia this week, but the next day, they back talking about Donald Trump. That's right. 2 people killed in cold blood on live television. Stop everything. But tomorrow, we're gonna talk about whether Donald Trump's got on a toupee or not, like that matters. I don't care if he bald or got a toupee. But I do care if we are having in our community the products that are legal that combined together will cause some of the most horrific acts that are possible. And that's why we are hoping that all of you listening will alert your churches, your community. Let me tell you this, and I'm going to bring on two speakers real quick and come back with my message. One of the reasons I was telling our youth leadership this week, one of the reasons why National Action Network always gets a lot of elected officials that respond, President of the United States, Speaker of our convention, Governor, all them show up. Let me explain something to you. They got what they call a prime voter. Am I right? You know what prime voters are? Prime voters are usually middle-aged to older, seniors real prime, and folk that go to church. These are prime voters because they vote all the time. Well, the folk that come to rallies here and the tens of thousands listen on radio are prime voters. You have a youth rally and they may have 1,000 people, but you might have 50 voters. You have a seniors rally or folk in their 40s rally and 80 to 90% of them are voters. So when you see political leaders respond to us, it's because we have the largest black prime voter gathering on a weekly basis in this city. We live on radio. You can't talk to more prime voters on a weekly basis than come and be on Saturday. So that's why when everybody, governor, them show up, people talk about they kiss the ring. No, they are cementing their political base. They ain't doing me no favor. They ain't kissing my ring. I don't even wear a ring. But I understand where the vote comes. That's why I was telling young activists this week, y'all need to do voter registration and get young folk to vote. Because you don't represent a threat to politicians unless you can vote them out. If you're up there bragging about, I don't vote, well, you just got ignored. Now, you can't get legislation through if you don't get the attention of legislators. Hello? That's why I considered politically ignorant. I didn't say ignorant, I said ignorant. People talk about, well, NAN Aug can get in the White House now and talk to the mayor now. Yeah, because we helped put the president and the mayor in. I mean, what kind of fool are you to think I helped put somebody in that I couldn't get in to see? That's part of the point. I'm asking me to tell President Obama, I'm going to help you get in. I'm not going to my home center, Senator Clinton. And when you get in, I'll be right outside marching. No, when you get in, we need to discuss what I'll be marching about. Otherwise, I need to get somebody else in here. It's like you hungry, you help me go shopping, I tell you can't eat. And you act like you made a good point. No, you stupid. Just like if somebody we don't help get in, they gonna give access to those helping them get in. Hello? Now, we need to have our officials deal with K2. Just like, and I'm going to announce this next week, but I'll give you a hint, we're going to go in front of the 4 black congressmen in New York that have not decided on Iran. We're going to front their office and help them decide. If Jared Nadler can stand with the president on peace, we want our 4 black congressmen that's on the fence, we want to rattle the fence a little bit. Because we do not need a wall. Hello. Somebody just called 2 congressmen. I know somebody in the barbershop said, look, you better call them. Let them know that we're out against right. We're going to do some visits. Because we want to help y'all with this. But let me get back to K2. When we started National Action Network 24 years ago, one of the people that incorporated National Action Network was the head of blacks in law enforcement at the time. He was a young man then with hair and was a fierce advocate against police misconduct and crime. And he signed as one of the 5 incorporators with Michael Hardy. Michael Hardy said that we need 5 people to incorporate NAN. He was one that signed. I said, well, you got me and 4 others, I'm founder. He said, we need somebody a little more legal than you, Reverend. I didn't speak to Michael for 3 hours till we went to lunch, and he had to pay for lunch. I had to talk for him then. And I want you to hear from him. He has championed early, as he has so often, issues in our community. The borough president of Brooklyn, New York, one of the founders of National Action Network, the Honorable Eric Adams.
Thank you, Rev. And I think that people don't really realize that when they talk about Reverend Sharpton's and NAN's international issues, that they don't recall the days when we painted red on crack houses to point out this issue of drugs. So just briefly on K2, Jeff had it right, Senator Klein had it right on being aggressive on this issue of K2, and really the Speaker of the City Council and her initiative of the legislation she's pushing forward is so important. We had probably 2 previous issues around drugs that we can benchmark our lives by. One during the 60s and the influx of heroin and what it did to our communities. And then in the early 80s and the beginning of my policing careers with crack cocaine. And so those drugs did not only impact the lives of the individuals who use them, they impact our entire community. Connected to those drugs were so many countless numbers of crimes and just the erosions of families and destructions of communities. And so we don't want to benchmark our lives by K2. And so New Orleans may have had their Katrina, but we have our K2. And if we do not get in front of this very serious drug, and this is not medical marijuana, and in fact it is not marijuana, and we don't want people to mix up the two because they state the name synthetic marijuana. This is not marijuana. This is not something that we grew, those of us who knew about it back then, grew in our backyard. This is something totally different. This is synthetic marijuana is a synthetic drug, and it's something that's created by man, and the destructive impact of it is very real. Now here's the problem. Some people believe that they are smoking a joint when in fact it's synthetic marijuana. And the impact of synthetic marijuana and what it does to you, I am not a pharmaceutical person, but I know what happens when street corner pharmaceutical experts think they are selling something that is good for you, and a countless number of people who have lost their lives or have been treated in our local hospitals because of the destructive impact of it, the violence that is associated with it, the unknown, how it's treated, and each package is you don't know what the outcome is because you're not talking about something that's regulated by government or regulated by any particular FDA approval. This drug is a very serious drug, and we have to come together. So I want to really commend NAN for really putting this on the radar, coordinating with our electeds, both on the state level and the city level, to make sure that we stop K2 at the door and don't allow what happened during the 60s and the 80s with heroin and crack to go into our communities. This drug, as often drugs do, they find their way into the communities where people are really attempting to turn their lives around and going through some difficult, challenging times anyway, and we don't need it to happen in our community. You're going to see K2 on Park Place in Brooklyn, not on Park Avenue in Manhattan. Right. So that's why there's often this slow response, because the children and the young people and the adults who are being impacted by this, they take the 4 and 5 train every day to try to make their lives better. They're not living in some mansion along Madison Avenue or Park Avenue and other parts. Hysteria and urgency comes about where these drugs pop up. And so we don't want them to pop up in our community. So again, thank you, Nan, and I want to thank our legislators that's moving this forward.
Borough President of Brooklyn, Eric Adams. And as he said many years ago, when the crack epidemic began to grow, and it was below the radar of the mainstream, we would go and in front of the stores that were selling crack and paint red X's to expose them and force it as a public image. Eric Adams was one that would go out with us, right to the crack dealers, and paint the stores that were selling crack. And that's what we've got to do with K2. We've got to make it an issue the public understands. No one has stood up earlier and stronger to deal with this from a citywide leadership level, as she has championed so many things in the past. And I'm proud that she has always maintained a relationship with us. I remember when she ran for council, and I walked the housing projects campaigning for her, and she won. I always remind her. Now, if she had lost, I'd have told her it was somebody else's fault. But you know, when you win, everybody take credit for it. Every union, every building president elected you. If you lose, it's like when a baby does the wrong thing in their diaper, only mama won them. That's how you can tell who the mama is. Let the baby poop. And the same ones that was cuddling you will be handing you back to your mama. Let us hear from the Speaker of the New York City Council, our Council President, Melissa Mark Viverito.
Good morning, National Action Network. Good morning. You know, I'm gonna speak to K2, but I just want to make a couple of comments. I really want to thank Reverend Sharpton for always bringing us together to really advocate on issues that matter across communities and to bring communities together to fight those issues. And this is obviously one of them. And as we're reminded, as he just did, on some of the legacy of the oppression that has been part of our collective history as a country, an ugly, sometimes a legacy of oppression and of institutionalized racism that sometimes continues to rear its ugly head in different ways, of how we come together to really defy that and to ensure that we have a more equal and just country. And that is something that I am committed to, and I know Reverend Sharpton obviously is, and that is why I'm always open to coming to the National Action Network, because there is a commitment to work to collectively as communities to defy that. And I wanted to say, in light of that perspective, this election is so important that's coming up. I am really, at this point, concerned about the dangerous precedent that is being set with the vile language that we are hearing from the Republican Party. And the Republican Party wants to kind of always tell us, right, that they are the defenders of our democratic values as a country, right, that they are the true defenders. But to sit idly by and watch the most important process of this country, which is the election of our next president, become a carnival act, right, is really scary, because the language is dangerous. And we're starting to see possibly some of the implications of how that language is impacting and influencing a sentiment, which can bring back, right? We haven't completely eradicated what we are trying to overcome, but it's really rearing its ugly head and bringing, in terms of the misogyny, in terms of the anti-immigrant, the bigotry, in terms of the rhetoric that we're hearing, there's bigotry, there's misogyny, there's homophobia. You know, that's all oppression. And so we really need to get involved to beat that back. And so when we talk about the voter registration drives, when we talk about, New York State is not a battleground state, but if we can go to other areas and help out candidates and really try to take back the House, the Senate, and obviously the White House, we need to do all we can, because I just am feeling really concerned, and I just can't sit silent as this is happening to us to our communities and to our country. So I hope that we will all work on that together, and let's make that a reality. So thank you very much for that. I'm committed to work with you on all that issue. So with regards to K2 in particular, the City Council has been concerned about K2 synthetic marijuana for some time at this point. And we've all heard about the ills of synthetic marijuana, which can cause dangerous health effects such as anxiety, agitation, confusion, and even seizures. It is neither safe nor natural, as you've heard. Those who sell this dangerous product should now be even more aware of exactly how seriously this criminal behavior will be treated, and we welcome the help of our elected officials, community leaders, and members of the public in getting the word out. That is why it's so important. It's good to see Senator Klein here, who's been talking about the changes at the state level and state reps, and that's why I also want to thank Reverend Sharpton for helping us create awareness around this issue. We need to ensure that the businesses licensed as tobacco retailers are not selling these products and that our communities are kept safe. The epicenter of this crisis has been El Barrio East Harlem on Lexington Avenue and 125th Street. But now it clearly is spreading. We're getting a lot of complaints at our district office and now across the city about the concern of the sale of this product and also people being hospitalized as a result of the use of this product. In April, my office led a multi-agency walking tour of 125th Street to lay out community concerns, and I really want to thank Commissioner Bassett, who has really been hands-on and really receptive to this conversation. In this past June, at my office's request, the NYPD led a multi-agency sting operation, followed by another sting in July around the area of 125th Street, Lexington Avenue. And participating in that sting operation, we had the NYPD, the New York City Sheriff's Office, the Department of Consumer Affairs, and the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene. And in one bodega alone, they seized over 8,000 bags of synthetic marijuana. Synthetic marijuana is highly dangerous. These drugs have no place in our communities, as we've all indicated. So responding to this emerging crisis, we're now in the final process of creating legislation at the city level, which addresses K2 and is expected to be introduced within the next couple of weeks. The makers of K2 routinely change the chemical composition of K2 to evade controlled substance laws. So they constantly are changing, which is also one of the real issues and challenges that we have, but it's also even more dangerous because they're constantly changing the composition of these products. Our bills at the city level would therefore make it a crime to sell synthetic marijuana, okay, and any sort of imitation synthetic drugs, completely outlaw it, which is not the case right now. And so therefore, you can't evade the law, because in changing the composition, they're able to evade those laws. So that's going to really reduce that. Under the proposed legislation, if the product is packaged or marketed as K2, or if a store clerk tells a buyer that a product is K2 or has the same effect as K2, this law will be enforceable. So that's important. Someone selling K2 or an imitation drug will be subject to a year in jail, so it could be up to a year in jail, and a fine of up to $5,000. And subsequent violations will be subject to a civil penalty of up to $25,000. Stores in which K2 or an imitation is sold can be considered a nuisance. They can also be shut down. And if an owner of the store has a license to sell tobacco, that license can also be revoked. So there's going to be increased penalties, and the closing of the bodega is not going to be an option that the city has available, which it did not have before. So really hoping that all of that combined, and other colleagues of mine, Councilmember Garodnick, Councilmember Wills, are all part of this effort, and I know we're going to get widespread support in the council. So we've been working very closely with the administration. I want to say personally, the mayor has been very hands-on on this issue, personally invested and personally convening the different city agencies with me to make sure that we're addressing this issue. So I really want to thank the mayor for his effort. It truly has been a coordinated effort. So just to conclude, we're really proud of this effort. We're thankful to the response of the different city agencies, and as a result, the legislation that we've presented at the city level, I think is really going to make a curve, and the level of awareness that's being raised through campaigns like this one are going to help in having people, because it was through efforts at the local level, it was through complaints that we were hearing as council members coming to our offices, bringing the packages, telling us there were concerns, that bodegas were selling this stuff. That is what led to this kind of awareness as it is. So we've got to really thank the grassroots efforts. And the legislation at the state level, yes. The legislation at the state level will make this a statewide concern as well. So I want to thank the efforts of Senator Klein and the governor as well. So thank you all very much. I look forward to the continued partnership, and let's get involved in this next presidential election. It really means a lot. Thank you.
Speaker Melissa Mark Vigorito, let us hear now, and I'm going to my message right after this, from the Governor's Faith-Based Partnerships Executive Director. We know him from his long and unswerving commitment to justice as he was a member of the New York State Assembly and pastors in Brooklyn, our own brother Kareem Kamara.
Thank you. So good to be here at NAN as always. I always feel inspired when I leave in the fight for social justice. I'll be very brief in the essence of time and respect for the program. And also, you already heard from Josh from the New York State Health Department. I don't know if I'll be as eloquent as him, but I'll try at least to expound a little bit. But just very quickly, a few important points. We know that this has increased 10 times since last summer, the use of synthetic marijuana. So if you can just have a visual of that, they're not just 10 young people standing there using this and potentially bringing serious health harm to themselves, but 100 of them standing there using this. So we have to address this aggressively. The governor has said that he wants to address this aggressively in terms of identifying a compound, as the speaker just said, because they keep changing the compound to circumvent the law. And the governor's also said that we've got to be careful. We can't just deal with the individual who possesses K2. We have to deal with the person who's manufacturing and selling K2. Because we always talk about the person who's using the drug, but we got to get to the source of the person who made it and who's selling it. And why this is so important as I close is because this right here is not just about changing the law. That's significant. We've got to change the law and keep changing the law. But we also have to change the culture. And that's why faith leaders are important. That's why what Reverend Al Sharpton is doing is so significant, because we have to let those young people know that you're doing tremendous harm to yourself. Somebody's telling them that this is natural. Somebody's telling them use this because it's better than marijuana. They don't realize they can kill themselves. They can bring health damage to themselves that cannot be repaired. So thank you so much, Reverend Al Sharpton. On behalf of the governor, I thank you. He's committed to changing this here in New York State. Thank you. God bless.
Let me say that I want to again give credit to Minister Kirsten John Ford. Give him a big hand as he brought this issue. And one of the things that I'm always very, very cognizant of as we build our next generation leadership, Minister Ford has been one that grew up here. And I don't know who will succeed me at NAN. We got some great young leaders. But then when I look at young Jillian Hemmings, stand up. He's a generation behind Forrest. So y'all don't use that youth card on me, because I got a strategy where I got Hemmings up here looking at your back. You old man to Hemmings. And where's my man? Stand up. Where's my man out here? Rick, stand up. Stand up. Come here, Chris. Chris is a generation behind Hemmings. I got the next 2 generations set. Come up here, Chris. So if Ford fumble, Hemmings is ready. If Hemmings fumble, Chris is ready. Sit right there, Chris. Get used to sitting up in my chair. Look over at Kiss and say, how you doing, old man? There was a movie, let me say this in our moments left. There was a movie out years ago called Fatal Attraction. There's now a show on TV One called Fatal Attractions. And it is based on people that are attracted to people that end up harming them. They use the things that attract them. They look good to you. They say the things you want to hear. They're soothing. They're appealing. And they use that to seduce you into what will harm you. What we are seeing in this election season is a fatal distraction. We are on the brink of so many serious issues. You have a global currency battle. What's going on in China, and the emphasis has rocked the stock markets all over the world. You've got the Iran nuclear deal, where we talked about we're going to go and have vigils in front of the 4 black congressmen that can't make up their mind. If this country doesn't sign the deal that they made with 5 other countries, in 2 years Iran will have nuclear weapons, according to experts. And we could be in the middle of war, and a disproportionate amount of them will come from our community. We are in economic, very serious times. Unemployment down, but still double in our community. We have a string of murders all over this country by police that we still fight to get in court, including Eric Gardner's case, with his mother and widow sitting here yet another Saturday with us. None of that is being discussed because of the fatal distraction of Donald Trump. To be obsessing on Trump and not dealing with the global economy, not dealing with what is going on in terms of law enforcement in this country, not even dealing with climate change. You don't even know what the candidates are proposing because we've gotten this addiction of what did Trump say today? Who did he insult today? What smart stuff did he say today? It's a fatal distraction because while they are chasing him, they are ignoring the issues that could lead to our demise. Man, obviously crazy, went out and shot and killed 2 people on television this week. And it was only the top news for a day and a half. Busy running around on the Trump stuff. And Trump still has not made up his mind on his policies. It's not like they interviewing him about what are you going to do. He said, well, I have my white papers in a couple of weeks. But just throwing out stuff, and many of it dog whistle. Don't forget now, Trump wanted to run president before, didn't run. What gave him some traction in politics first was questioning the birth certificate of the first black president. That's what got him in. He went from birther to immigration, acting like we were all being inundated by Mexican criminals and rapists and all of that. All this dog sickness, anti-black, anti-Latino. You know it can't be based on policy because he doesn't have a policy. Well, what you gonna do, Trump, about immigration? We're gonna deport everybody that is illegal back and their children. Wait a minute, you gonna do what? We're gonna send them back, and if your mom and daddy was here illegal, we're going to send you back. But wait a minute, the 14th Amendment said, Trump, if you're born here, you're a citizen. Oh, well, I'm going to have some lawyers look at that. And y'all act like this serious. Well, how you going to pay to find 11 million people? Before we get to deporting them, how you going to find them? And then how you gonna deport them? I'm a businessman, I'm a billionaire, I got that all worked out. Well, good, tell me how you worked it out. This is a fatal distraction. I'm gonna build a wall all over the border of Mexico and the U.S. How you gonna pay for it? I'm gonna make the Mexicans pay for it. You can't be that stupid. This is a reality show on the evening news. This is ridiculous. We must understand that everything that we have fought for in the last 50 years can be undone, Eric Adams, if there is one more right-winger on the Supreme Court. They already have affirmative action case scheduled. Roe versus Wade, some women, gender issues scheduled. It's on the calendar. Voting rights. They already took out Section 4. They have another voting case coming into the Supreme Court. Every president, the last 3 presidents, chose 1 or 2 Supreme Court justices. The next president will have 1 or 2. If it is the wrong president, they only need 1 more vote, and what was 5-4 that saved Obamacare and saved things like the question on gay marriage will then become 6-3 the other way. And while you run around talking about Dr. King, the Voting Rights Act can be turned around as unconstitutional in a 6-3 vote. And you run around talking about whether Donald Trump got on a toupee when your votes and your rights is at stake. This is a fatal distraction. It's too serious. We are in a city with homelessness in the increase. Front page of the New York Times today, homeless people put in homes with rats and mice and no food in the biggest city in the world, and we can't get the funds increased from the federal government. And y'all run around watching a billionaire flying around in his plane, giving kids rides in his helicopter. You must be out your mind. Turn that stuff off. We got serious stuff to discuss. When I look at all of these things, that's why, I'm gonna say this and let you go, that's why a movement, and the movement that succeeded in changing laws, you had a lot of noise in the 60s, but it was Dr. King and those that fought through hails of threats and bombings and bullets that changed the law. A lot of folk that was more militant than him that called them names. You can't remember their name because they didn't get nothing done. A spiritual movement lasts. Spiritual-based people last. Because you got to bleed in season and out of season. You got to have folk that operate on sunny days and rainy days. I don't need no sunshine friends. I need friends when the chips are down. When it looks like I can't make it. When it looks like I'm about to give out, they're standing there anyhow. Anybody can be with you when everything's going your way. But your friends are the ones that when it looks like you might not get back up, that'll extend themselves to help you up. And that's the spiritual people that went into Birmingham and Selma and fought to open these doors for us, and we are not going to let them close these doors. Lady wrote a cover story about me in the LA Times this week, quoted Emmons, and she said, oh, I don't understand all these years since '86, Howard Beach to now, he's still out there. I didn't come out here for a season. I came out here for a reason. I'm doing the same thing today I did in '86. And I don't care whether I'm in the White House or the outhouse, I'm here every Saturday morning, because this is what I was born to do. When they said this week, we're going to put Reverend Al on Sunday mornings rather than the evenings, Porter said to me, well, you concerned you're not on the evenings, you're on Sunday morning? I said, let me tell you something. I grew up emulating Martin Luther King, not Larry King. I ain't no TV star. Don't get me confused. I know who I am. And I know what I was born to do. And I tell y'all every Saturday, find your purpose and your passion. And if you find the reason God brought you here, and your passion for it, it will fulfill you in life. Reason why you ain't happy, you ain't figured out what you're doing here. You're looking for somebody to make you happy. Find your purpose and you make yourself happy. I'm looking for someone to make me happy in life. You're going to be miserable with somebody else if you don't know what you're doing here. And you're going to make them miserable too. God gave every one of us a purpose. And if you believe in what he brought you here to do, some were born to be great leaders, some were born to be great followers, some to be famous, some to be unknown, but all of us to serve. And the reason a lot of us won't do it is we don't believe we can do what God tells us to do. But let me tell you this, I'll let you go. Story of Peter in the Bible. They were on the ship, they were on the boat, Eric, and they looked out and the storm rose. This Katrina anniversary, storm rose. Winds raging. Rocking the boat they're on. Sails about to go over. Camara, they became frightened. They are almost overwhelmed by the waves that was crashing on the deck of the boat. When they looked out through the storm, lesson one, Stephen Marshall, you got to be able to look through your storm. If you get caught in a storm, close your mouth and open your eyes. The reason why a lot of y'all make mistakes is you drown because you open your mouth and close your eyes. Close your mouth in a storm and open your eyes. Try to see through the storm. Then after they saw through the storm, in the midst of the wave, they saw Jesus walking. And they say he was walking on the water. They kept looking and said, what is that object? And as he got closer, they said, that's the Lord walking on the water. Now watch this. Then he beckoned to Peter. Peter, come walk with me. And Peter, without even thinking about it, stepped out on the water. Because Jesus had called him, he didn't think about it. And when he started walking, a little wind blew and he thought about I could drown. He didn't go down till he thought about it. And that's what's wrong with you. Every time a little wind blows in your life, you start thinking about what can bring you down rather than focus on what brought you up. Keep your eyes on the Lord and keep on walking. Stop looking down at how you could drown when you wasn't supposed to be able to walk in the first place. Well, now, do you think we can lose? We were never supposed to win. So I know we can keep winning if we just keep looking at the victories we wasn't supposed to have. Look at where we started. When I can look at a black man coming from his background and walk in the borough hall and ask God that used to despise him. Where's the president's office? I know if I keep looking up, I can walk on water. When I can walk in the White House and tell the Secret Service I got an appointment to see the President of the United States, I don't care what wind blows, I won't look down. Keep your eyes on the prize and hold on, because the storm is passing over. The storms are passing over. Hold on, hold out, don't drown. Keep your eyes on the prize. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing. Singing like you mean it. Singing like you mean it. Yeah. We want justice. Got to have justice. Everybody's singing. One more time, Lord. One more time, Lord. Everybody's singing. Yeah. I'm gonna open the doors of the movement. There may be someone here today, you hear us on the radio, see the TV show, come to the rally, but never joined and became a part of the National Action Network. If you're here today and want to be a permanent member of this organization, I just want you to come down and shake my hand and let me sign you up right now. Just come to me right now. Everybody sing. Everybody sing. Everybody singing. Everybody singing. Singing like you mean it. Singing like you mean it. We want justice. Got to have justice. Everybody singing. Yeah. All right, I'm raising our offering. Moving quickly. Want to raise our offering. Moving quickly. 12 o'clock. Is it 12, Phoenix? Is the Voting Rights Forum and the play. And starting at noon. And I want everybody to come back and support the Voting Rights Forum and the play, starting at 12 noon. I need everybody to give. Everybody give. Now, I don't want none of you state or city officials to give nothing. I don't want to be in the middle of none of the who gave and where y'all got the money from. Y'all just keep your money in your pocket. And don't send me no email either about nothing. People send me email, I forward it right to Hardy.